Hi everyone, welcome back to another video in the Web Security Academy series. In today's video, we'll be covering lab number 4 in the DOM-based vulnerabilities module titled DOM-based Open Redirection. If you do not have an account on the Web Security Academy, you can get one by visiting the URL portswigger.net/websecurity and clicking on the sign up button. I already have an account and I am logged in, so to access the exercise, I'm going to click on Academy, select all labs, do a search on DOM-based vulnerabilities and go to lab number 4 titled DOM-based Open Redirection. Alright, let's get started. This lab contains a DOM-based Open Redirection vulnerability. To solve this lab, exploit the vulnerability and redirect the victim to the exploit server. Alright, so our target goal over here is to exploit the DOM-based Open Redirection vulnerability so that we could redirect the victim user to a malicious server that we control. Okay, let's access the lab. Now notice over here, this is the built-in browser in Burp, and so all my requests are already being passed in my Burp proxy. Okay, so the first thing I do when it comes to DOM-based vulnerabilities is look for any insecure JavaScript that could potentially introduce DOM-based vulnerabilities. So I'm going to do that on the home page, right-click, view page source, and go down over here just to see if there's any JavaScript, and it doesn't look like it. Let's close this off and just visit one of the posts. So click on view post over here, go down. Now notice over here, you could add a comment under a post. And when you do add a comment, your comment itself and then the name and potentially even website get reflected back in the browser. So all of these fields need to be tested for cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. But before we do that, let's right-click and view the page source. Again, we're looking for any insecure JavaScript that is potentially introducing vulnerabilities. Okay, so interesting. So right away, I could see over here on the link back class. So this looks like it's for the back to blog string. So if we go back right over here and go down, you could see over here you could post a comment. You could also go back to the blog that you were on. So this functionality over here is being controlled by this code. So let's just copy this and put it in our document and analyze it to see if there's any vulnerabilities. And I have two words for analysis over here, so I'm just going to remove this one. All right, so href is just the hash sign, which means that it doesn't lead anywhere. And then over here it says on click, perform this action right over here. So we've got a bit of JavaScript over here. Let's copy it. And again, just analyze what it's doing. So the first thing we're doing is setting the return URL. And then we're saying if the return URL is not null, then location.href is equal to the first index of the return URL array. Otherwise, location.href is equal to just a slash. All right, so if we take this piece by piece, you could see over here .exec is a method that executes a search for a match in a specified string. And so what we're doing over here is we're essentially looking at the current page address, which is the location right over here. And then we're searching for a match that fits this regex over here. And in this regex over here, we're looking for the parameter URL is equal to, and then we're looking for either HTTP or HTTPS. That's what the question mark does over here. And then we're looking for a semicolon and then a slash, and then any number of characters. So we're essentially over here looking for URL is equal to HTTP or HTTPS, and then semicolon, and then slash. If we do find it in the current page address, then what we do is we essentially return the first index of that return URL array. Otherwise, we just return the slash sign. So if we go back over here and just add that URL parameter that it's looking for, so we'll add it right over here and say, let's say end URL is equal to HTTPS test.ca. So I don't think this website exists, but let's hit enter. So far, so good. Let's right click and then click on inspect and then go to console right over here. And essentially what we're going to do is just copy this code over here and see what it's doing. So let's paste it, hit enter. Now notice this is the response of the code. So return URL is equal to this entire thing over here, which is just an array of values. Now what it's doing over here is taking the first index of that array. So the array starts with 0, which is URL is equal to HTTPS, and then colon / test.ca, and then the first index, so this would be 0 index, and then the first index is just the URL itself. So if we copy this and say console.log and paste it in here and remove the semicolon, hit enter. Now notice over here, it's just returning the first index of the array. All right, so right away, I can see that this is vulnerable to open redirection because it's taking client-supplied input, so the URL parameter over here, and then it's using it in order to redirect the user when the user clicks on the back to blog string right over here. So now if we click on back to blog, what we should be redirected to is test.ca. So let's click on that, and notice over here, it's just loading. And that's because test.ca doesn't actually exist, so it's not going to resolve to anything. And we should get an error in a little bit. And we do. So over here you could see it says unknown host test.ca. Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do is go back, and to complete the exercise, all we need to do is redirect the victim to our exploit server, which is a server that we control. So if we go to exploit server right over here and then open link in new tab, let's close this off. The link to our exploit server is this one over here, so let's copy it. This exploit server is simply just an HTML document that has hello world in it. So if we go over here and add it in the URL parameter, so let's paste it in here, hit enter. Now, anytime the user clicks on back to blog, it should redirect him to our malicious server, and we'll try it on our own browser. So let's click on back to blog, and here we go. So you get redirected to the exploit server, and you could see the message hello world. And if we go back over here, you could see it says congratulations, you solved the lab. All right, so we successfully completed the exercise by exploiting the DOM-based open redirection vulnerability. In the next lab, we'll look at another type of a DOM-based vulnerability.